Good morning from Yami B TV. Wishing you all well, sending loads of love to you as usual. Right, kick off the morning this morning on a cold, bleak day down here in the countryside. Now, my earliest memories, right, especially when that life first started and the way that the police inquiries used to go, the way that we as criminals used to operate, much different from today. Because we know that way back in the day, there weren't no tape record machines or cameras in the room or nothing, right? When you get arrested. So we knew, a lot of us, at certain times during our early lives, and some of us paid real hard consequences by getting arrested and convicted for crimes they never did. That today, the evidence that they used to bring into the court, them days, even magistrates and Crown, you wouldn't be able to get away with that today because they've implemented all the things like recorders, cameras, bit by bit, walking into the police. They can see everything clearly about what happens from the arrest time all the way through to interview periods and what happens next. So it has to be dealt with a little bit more fairer than when we was growing up. Now, my earliest memories, right, they're the law called sus. We know that. Sus means you could be out on the street burgling, but not actually near the premises that you might be burgling, or you could be walking around with bits of plastic that you use, sadly, to slide doors on burglaries, robberies, and not robberies with the plastic, but you know when you're loitering in areas, but you might not be all the time, because we used to go down West End and places like that, and the police used to just jump out and put the plastics in your pocket, right? If you've got known history for certain things, and you know, them days they're really seriously active, the police, and they will do anything to get you off the streets because they know why. In my case, they know that I'm at it. So, you know, you can't grumble. It's a two-way thing, but hold on a minute. We still want to get nicked when we've actually done something. Not want to, but we want it to be fairly done, not when you haven't. That's what they used to do. See you on the pavement and go, yeah, he was standing outside that house down there, and we saw him. He was fiddling with the door. He wasn't, but he was standing nearby. They'll say, in court, we saw him fiddling. He knocked the letterbox. He looked suspicious. He looked through a window, but he never. But when you go magistrates in the morning, they're going to tell the magistrates that. We found bits of plastic on him, but hold on, you put it on me. We found a screwdriver on him. He was going equipped, right? So they could take absolute liberties back in the day. Am I lying, you lot? No. Yes. You know, no. They could do what they wanted, innit? Bloody hell. And on top of that, I remember early bits as well, early 80s, that kind of stuff. Question and answers, right? You don't sign nothing and all that. And they were allowed to say that you said, you admitted it, he'd done it, it was him, and they'll go into court with that. Even if it's not signed, you get remanded in custody, right? A few people get bail and that kind of stuff. I said, well, you know, where's the signature? But he's saying he didn't say that. They're saying you said that when the solicitor wasn't present. Gordon Bennett, boy. They could get away with murder back in the day. Many got penalised in later life for cases, serious cases, where men are met along the way, were proven in the end to not be what they said they was. And that earliest memory of during Aylesbury, the Carl Bridgewater case, right? I'm a little kid. The newspapers come in. Very tragic, sad case, the Carl Bridgewater case. I think it was over Luton, Bedford. Come, it's not, all right, you lot will tell me later on. A young kid delivering newspapers ends up getting shot. What do? They hit the local, supposedly, allegedly, known criminals, the Hickey brothers and two others, I can't remember. But they fit them up with statements, other bits and bobs, trying to place them in. Remember, there's no phone things them days and signals to put people at certain things. So we're really talking about word of mouth and the police dragging in witnesses saying, yeah, just go there and say that you saw him on the staircase and that kind of stuff. But what did it do in the end? In the Bridgewater case, they got out. But during their spell in prison, right, even after my Aylesbury period, I got to see, I think it was Danny, they were taking drugs and things in there. They never used to take drugs before, allegedly, right? So their emotional state during that time on that life sentence, no one wants to be in prison for a murder of a young boy. So you got to be on point in there as well, where people think, oh, you shot a little kid, mate, and all that kind of stuff. If you haven't, you know what I mean? If you haven't done the crime, you are going to feel seriously done by. And I've watched a lot of men over the years, looked into their eyes, and I think, I just don't see it. But hey, behaviours, the hickeys and all that, used to get on the roof and protest, to get beatings off the prison staff, right? Believing that they ain't innocent. So this drags on for years and years and years till their emotional states and mental well-being becomes in doubt, and it's a serious question. You know what I mean? Very, very tragic, sad case. And in the end, they find out that the police, everybody's been fiddling to just get a conviction because it is a massive case. And they need to make sure that the public round that area, you know, we've done our work, we've got someone for it, blah, blah, blah. Anything for anything at certain times, just to make it look like that they've done their jobs. Serious stuff. And they're up to today, I don't know where the hickey, I think the other brother's name was Vincent, I can't remember, right? But their time in prison was torturous. And you just know they didn't do it. You know, we talked about the Michael Stone thing before. I'm of the belief it ain't him, Uncle Yummy. I believe it ain't him. And I had little issues way back in the day. I've told you lot this already. But on that particular case, I've got my mind fingered on something else, not Belfield, man. So I don't believe that bit either. But some of you say, yeah, but Yummy, he said, don't worry about what he said. It don't really matter to me. But that Bridgewater case, right, I'm sure I had a follower who was family to some of that. And on one of those days, if you're still out there, please get in touch with Uncle Yummy, especially now where we know there's no going backwards. I'm in fine form. But it was a real sad case and some psychological damage as well that can happen, right? And we know that a lot of cases happen that way in the olden days, right? Sometimes we meet men who say, no, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, you know what I mean? But in jail, your behaviour suggests to me that you might have. The other thing, right, asking me about Winston Silcott. Now, from the beginning of time, right, when I got my detention centre, when I was out stealing as a young kid, right, the big names from Ladbroke Grove, the one theme that they talked about in Tottenham when I was small was a man named Sticks. That he was proper and that he was a bad man during that life and I never saw much of him during those early stages of my life, but I remember all the talk from those, from Brixton as well, big names, used to call his name, yeah, nah, it sticks. So my belief was always, during Aylesbury days, I got nicked afterwards. I was in Lambeth holding cells, right? Many of us will remember that. Nicky Jacobs, who I was in Stamford House with, he was my boy as a child, me and Nicky. He was really close as kids in Stamford House, right? Walked through the door, so this is about 1985, right? He walks through the door, he's nicked for the Broadwater Farm thing, and he's talking about his nick for a fray and that kind of stuff. So I'm listening to him talk, and shortly after that, three men, Sticks, Braithwaite, somebody else, they got arrested for the murder. But for Sticks's, in the olden days, right, even the Rap Attack come out, I can't remember. Sticks was always a household name, right? He probably did have a bad childhood and did have a big reputation. I mean, the first case, I believe, allegedly, that fight was a one-on-one with a boxer. You know what I mean? So he's got a life sentence for that during this same thing happening with Blakelock. So they charge all three of them, stitch them all up. It's a real bodged up case, mate. I saw him, right? He was in Swellside one time. I was in Maidstone with him, right? I was on that block, Winston was on that block, and then I came over for about 2 weeks when I was getting moved or something like that. In his cell, during this time, oh yeah, me and Winston used to play up front together. I used to argue a lot on the football pitch, right? But Winston was good with his back towards goal, very athletic, serious man. He's not going to talk no shit to no one, man. His behaviour suggests, you know, that I'm doing a life sentence, but you're plastering it all over the papers that I killed a policeman, which makes it humanly impossible to get me out on my other life sentence. You know what I mean? So you're going to get convicted of that, but you ain't going to really go nowhere, are you, for a crime like that? Plus your name's being dragged into the mud. Plus, you might not have even been there that night and didn't do it anyway. We used to play out football up front. We used to argue quite a lot, Winston, right? But to me, Winston was a real household living legend from that life and that neck of the woods by the farm. His name used to carry a lot of weight, right? So we're in Mason, and I go on that other wing. Winston's case papers used to near enough touch the ceiling, right? He grew a beard and he said, nah. I said to him one time, I said, Winston, surely you got to cut that now, because you should roll it into a ball. But he said, nah, I'm only going to cut it when I get released. I said, of course I'm going to get released, Sammy. It's not me. You know what I mean? He used to spend so much time, which you're going to do. When you know you've been fitted up, every single day you're going to go through those, every single detail. And things a very, very intelligent man, that Winston. He sat there day after day, would pinpoint this and pinpoint that. It's his life. It's his life in jeopardy for something that he hasn't done. Trust me. One of those other two that had serious issues and that with doing their time as well. I can't remember which one it was. But in the end, justice was done and Winston Silcott got back out, right? If you're asking me, what did I see? Winston. I never saw nobody test Winston. Winston's kind of a calm geezer unless you bother him. But he speaks his mind and holds his own corner. That's the Winston Silcott that I know, but he's not a man who's going to speak too many words. A lot of that also they didn't. A lot of them are white villains like Winston Silcott. Winston, I'm sure he done a Borstal training because he's a bit older than me, right? But them lot, the early bits and from that era would just say Winston Silcott, you know what I mean? Quick, could look after himself. Yeah, no one's mug at all. So I was in a dance the other day. I can't remember. I think it was in Labatt Grove. And Winston was there, and I said, "He looks young, Winston." Right? Big him up if any of you ever see him. But he stopped me. He goes, I like you. All right, Winnie, everything cool. Got me? Well, I haven't seen him since, the old prison days. I didn't spend loads of times with him. But I know that case, we all know, was a living bodger. Now, behaviours during that time, right? And the video to go on too long. Keep asking me about my old mate, Warren Slaney. His behaviour during all these years in prison suggests definitely that something is wrong. I've looked at a lot of people over the years. I saw it in some of the Irish as well. We know that I did, and they weren't found in the end when the police bodged up that as well. They were innocent. Trust me, mate, they was. And their behaviour again suggested why there was. It's different when you see it with your own eyes. You think, nah, he's saying it ain't him, but he behaved cool. They had an old saying, didn't they? Whoever sleeps in the police station, two men, both get nicked for murder. The one that's sleeping, who goes to sleep at night, is the one that done it. The one that's staying up when they look through the spile zone, that's the psychological theory of it all. But you know what? I believe that. Because any time I was guilty, I'll go to bed. Because you know that it's you. True, right? Probably not in all cases, right? But Slaney, he's not going to get the rub of the green in there, is he? After the life he's led in there, the last of the Mohicans and all that, the great Slaney, right? I told you that the petition. I'm going to do one for Shane Scotland shortly as well. He's gone way over his tariff. But Warren's behaviour, I always believed, because I wasn't there. I know that. I always believed he weren't a gunman, mate. I always believed it. He's a handsman. I knew that. There's nothing mentally wrong with Warren. Right, he's a live wire and he's not taking no shit. But you have to ask yourself that the way that he's done his sentence up until now, he's called off now, so they're telling me, right? He marched all the way through. He doesn't speak to authority or nothing like that. So really, when you look into his eyes, he feels hard done by over something. How come he's realistic on a lot of other things and acceptance on certain things? His behaviour would always suggest to me that definitely he wasn't a gunman. The rest of the case, I can't comment because I can't remember little bits, but I know that I saw little bits. So unless you lot remind me, Uncle Yami can't really talk about those things, you hear me? But bring a petition, Uncle Yami, because the other thing is he's over his tariff. How many years do you want people to go and do time and get the years? The old justice hasn't been served. But we don't make the rules, we never. When we get to get more, if you get an 8-year sentence when you're meant to get a 3, we got to take that what's coming. And everyone says, you weren't meant to get that. They make examples of people. Warren Slaney has served his time, but they're not going to be easy on him in there, are they? After everything that's happened, he's not going to get a fair crack at the whip to come down in category, to get to a different prison, to work his way down, to have a chance of getting released. Many men have come out with their tariffs and crimes. Could be worse, you know what I mean? Let's talk the real talk, you know, and his time is definitely up. So I'll leave it down to you lot, down there in Leicester, to bring those things to the table for Uncle Yami. But for everything I saw with behaviours over the years, he's definitely bothered by something, right? And I'm going to be interviewing someone in the distant future who are going to explain about behaviours and things and what they saw from him in there as well. We know what we're talking about here, right? So later on, I'm putting up a petition with Shane Scotland. He's about 8 years over his tariff of 16 years or something like that, right? I've got all the paperwork. I'll bring it up here. Some of you sign it for me, please. It's very, very hard. And both his co-defendants are out, and there's no suggestion of what his part might have been during the case that he got a life sentence for. That people are recommending release for him. But the prisoners, mate, we don't want... Because 10, 15 years ago, he might have been a bit of a bad man in the case, but he ain't had no nickings or nothing, really. Nothing's been proven. His behaviour's changed to a good level. Still, he has to suffer in there and hear that everybody's got out apart from him. And that's with outside this one talking, supporting he still can't get out. It's not funny. It's not funny. So I'll be bringing that to the table later on. Good morning to you all. I'll be coming up later with some more crackers and firebombs. Love you loads.